Okay, is this karaoke night? Oh no, wait, it's my talk. What's up, everyone? Let me put this up. So, how many of you guys heard about the show talk from Eliza yesterday? Yeah? So it kind of like inspired me. Like he said, why I'm actually doing slides, and he kind of like sit down and started solo speaking. So I basically like I converted my slides in a quick brief and give context around A004, 7701. And then we will have like a small like fireside chat with James from Collab.Land, speaking about permissions and more. So quick check-in, how many of you heard about A004? Sounds good. 7710. Okay. The delegation toolkit, like gators. Yeah, a couple of people. Okay. So the TLDR is. I just give some context here. Yeah, I think like everybody's spun up his hope and claw. Maybe you kind of like build up exactly what they were talking about around sub-agents. But there are different like ways to do things, right? I just want to run through like, okay, where are we kind of like in the PMF? And I think like we are obviously in the 2.5%. Indirectly, what Crypto Twitter is showing you on the timeline. We are actually like quite innovator in that space, even after like building multi-flow with NN8 or testing out with like trading bots. Yeah, so quite early. I will run through some kind of like slides, and also like I want to give some kind of like context in terms of like I like this meme and I'm using for everything. But the TLDR is that can profit from crypto trading? Can you? The question is garbage in, garbage out. Whatever we are building, it's important that we're training obviously with data, and we are in different phase here. I'm just running through some slides because I want to really get you guys on the fireside chat. So we are right now in the discovery phase where for a long time we're speaking about agentic economies. We see a lot of like testing being done. Not a lot of like standards. Obviously like A004 is one of the main standard trying to kind of like attempt to build a full social reputation for those agents. And I think like we are kind of progressing in the right way, right? We start seeing SaaS completely like interacting directly with agents, but obviously like the infrastructure today is not 100% on for agents, right? Especially on wallets. Wallets is definitely like one strong use case because today humans are going through like the interface, your extension, mobiles, and there were like some experiment like MetaMask snaps. I don't know if you guys ever install or you have some snaps, but snaps are actually going through without actually an extension. It's through endpoints to an API suite, and it's quite interesting how this infrastructure has been built even before. I just ran through some slides, but basically like we are like following like discovery, trust, comms, and pay, and now we are mostly in the discovery and trust phase. Why trust phase? Because obviously we want to build a social reputation, and we want to profile those agents with specific like standards. How many of you guys heard X402 for payments? For example, X402 is very strong for agentic payments. Why is that? Because this is standardized like a payment infrastructure. And that's kind of like the second phase, right? Not just operator need to be fully like verifiable, but you want to make sure they have the same instruments to kind of like connect with each other and kind of like create specific transaction. And one thing is obviously like we discover pre-agents with, for example, Eliza. There were at one point there were like around 250 like Eliza forks that were basically like doing the same things. Those agents going online, right? And I think on the consumer eye, like things were very kind of like dangerous because you could not really attest a specific track record of this agent. And I think that's why I'm contributing quite strongly around A004. One of my colleagues is one of the author, Marco, and we are advocating a lot during this Denver time because I think we're with obviously OpenClaw is one part of the metal, but this entire narrative around agents right now is getting very, very practical. meaning also like we need to give the instruments, but also we need to attest that those agents are able to have a track record, are able to have a social reputation, but most important, you can profile those agents specifically on a common repo. If not, like we are not going into the second phase, and the second phase is agent-to-agent commerce, right? And I think it's quite important. Yeah, let me just go through A004. I think I mentioned a little bit what A004. There are 3 parts. I definitely like recommend to see and read the ERC, but there are different. There are the discovery, the trustability, and there is a third one around indexing, but that's kind of secondary. Here are some examples. How is this done on the creator agency side? And there are different things that will go wrong. I think like in the first chat before, like there were different things that are mentioned, but obviously like, yeah, without a proper like standardization around agentic commerce, for example, we're not able to trust the agent, or even like the agent discovery will be harder, right? And there are different like use case, gaming agent, planning agents, style agents. I mean, right now we see around for LLM, for example, like the planning phase is super important. And I think like having agents helping on the planning phase is very important, but also like the discovery side for those agents is getting hard. If you look at docs are being built for humans, right? Right now, for example, we started to see docs with like robotext. We started to see like direct JSON file that are direct ingestible from the agent side. And for example, monorepo being built directly. I think that's, so things are moving forward, but still like there is no, for example, common knowledge for a specific use case, right? I think there is a workshop, very interesting workshop about how the graph is building a common graph based on use case. For example, I want to give, I want to give the agent a task and build a specific like privacy DApp, and right now like this agent need to kind of go around through different privacy stacks. So the entire kind of like GEO, the SEO for agents, is also like not made easy today. So the planning phase is something super important. And obviously there are like different use cases today, but they're also not new, right? Like trading bots has been around for long. They are executable on a Python script since the 80s, and nothing changed much apart giving context. I think, yeah, Dr. Agent is another example. There are tons of things going wrong. I definitely like emphasize about maintaining data on TEEs, training model. I really like a project called Nilion, for example, training data fully on private basis. So there are all different things, but also we see like innovation going extremely fast and is not keeping up with like the problems, right? One example of a wacky kind of like sub-agent happen. I'm running like 7 sub-agents 24/7, and they're completely like on the open, right? And what he said about prompt injection is something like super like important. And I think today, to tell you the truth, like right now, people are giving random permission to do basically like everything. They're not really containerized or sandboxed application, because you can override souls of the agent. You can overwrite like empty file of restrictions. And one solution out there that I've been advocating for a long time is delegation, is permissions. And it's funny enough, like MetaMask has been working on something called MetaMask Delegation Toolkit. I don't know how many people heard about this, but basically like you can give delegation to do things. And now that agents are around, that's actually a perfect use case. And I give you quickly like a rundown what is happening on the A004. To close this part, the protocol is done on also like on mainnet since last week, and there are like 100+ companies supporting A004. I think like there is an A004 repo with 20,000+ agents today. So and obviously like things are not like finishing now, right? There is an agent kit SDK where agents can actually support the same standard, and everybody here running agents should actually like kind of like align with the standard, or have the agents align with the same endpoints. Because if not, it will not support X402, it will not support different kind of like endpoints. Okay, so second part of the talk here is that how we will get to kind of like agentic wallet. I just want to kind of like mention this part around right now, like wallets as an example is kind of like human first, interface first, and there are kind of like different way, especially on the friction side, that you can allow an EOA to run different things. Although today having like a separate EOA, a separate machine is probably the most secure way to do things, because I don't know if you test out other kind of like no interface wallets. They're also like yeah, they're very nascent, right? It's very in early stage. So I mentioned what Gator is, right? So you have both the Delegator framework and the toolkit is all based around 7710. So it's on the smart contract level. So you can basically attest and give permission to do things. And I will just run through a little bit faster, but you have different kind of like parts. You have the delegation, you have the caveat enforcer. That means you think about is some kind of like safe for permissions. You can actually like give permissions to the agent to do things in this example, but also like to run different way. And then you have the delegation manager that is kind of the orchestrator on the delegator side. And there are tons of use case. I just want to run you through some use case and not bore you with more technical side. Give me 2 sec. So. So Hello Gator was one of the example, and you can basically like create a full Gator app that is based on permissions. And right now, for example, we are adapting this for specific like agent infrastructure. The skills are already submitted in the main ClowHub repo that you can actually like build your own permissions. And some of the example, for example, like we did that back in ECC. We ran something called like ETH Red Balloon, where you can actually you will find like a red balloon, but you can delegate the ownership to find this balloon directly to another like EOA. And the cool thing is that when the reward, if you win, when the reward is distributed, automatically on the smart contract level, the contract address will be withdrawing directly to the winners. So it was very interesting because this is not just a random talk, but it was all defined, all the caveats were defined directly on the smart contract level. That was one example that was very, very cool and mostly like a test. And different things like Propel was also an example that we did in DEF CON, was a crowdfund cooking class where you can actually like crowdfund specific like classes on a different level. And I think like at the end, there are tons of like use case that you can actually empower agents for permission specific. Allow EOA to contract to have a contract code. EOAs have Gator superpower. Think about also delegation of like a sponsorship. Think about agents paying for gas for specific things. Think about account recovery and trust automation. There are tons of use case. One thing I definitely like encourage is to check out like what are really like permission and how you can enforce those on the agent side if you are interested to spin up your agent and not leaving your private key prompt engineered the next day. I think that's definitely one. Yeah, those are tons of use cases that I was having in my mind. I dream about. I want to talk about it, but I think like I want to just jump in on how James from Collab.Land leveraged this smart account kit, leverage these 7710 like permissions. Yeah, advanced tracing is super interesting. Also, like you can actually like define those permissions and what the agent can do or cannot do. And those are not something that are defined in the SOL or in the constraint in the MD file, but also are is something that is much, you cannot basically like have it overwritten. Yeah, because right now, prompt engineering, like for example in OpenClaw, people are overwriting file or they are like backing up in their GitHub repo, and basically you can prompt engineer to take the GitHub and check, for example, the private key. And you know, private key is just one problem. There are tons of problems, right? Especially if you're doing like use case like with like speculation specific, right? Yeah, that was also like a very interesting permission sharing use case where you can actually stream token, you can build subscription streams, but you cannot really like fake it because those were specific on permissioned level. So that's also some example that I wanted to share. Yeah. So that's it. So kind of like to recap, like what we kind of learned today, very nascent phase. I definitely recommend to everyone to test out. I mean, OpenClaw is just one example, but there is a bunch of Web3 like agents that you can actually like test. But I think like, the space is also moving around like permissions and delegation, delegating the right to do something. And there are tons of use case. And, we spoke about stablecoin to be like one of the biggest use case in Web3. But I think for agent specific, like permission is one of the PMF that we need to solve as soon as possible. If not, will be kind of like an agent fork war. And it's not good for like consumers, right? Where consumer actually wanna consume agent and do specific things. Okay, I think we're good. I think like let's invite James here on stage. So basically, like James with Collab.Land leveraged. So he basically like leveraged like 7710 and the entire permission. Maybe you want to give like some colors on what is Collab.Land and why this is needed for agents specifically.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is James Young. I run a project called Collab.Land. We do what's called token gating on Discord and Telegram. We've integrated the MetaMask delegation toolkit, 7710, 7715. And we don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to do a quick check. How many people here are developers? Okay, so hot take, real quick. I'm going to speed run some of this. You don't have to have your agent manage a private key. Those days are over. You have an agent with a smart account. You use 4437 to have your agent own a smart account. You use the MetaMask delegation toolkit to create delegations, because now we're in this world where I think personal agents or having an agent do something and having that one agent then orchestrate to sub-agents or what is known as a swarm is going to happen. And so this primitive where you have these agents 24/7 doing high volume transactions. You can't have a swarm of agents first sending funds to each other in order to do work. There's so many transactions. And so what you do is you have a smart account, and this agent has a smart account. You issue delegations, and what a delegation is simply is a IOU. It's a signed message, it's off-chain, you store it, it could be a ZK proof, it could be in the open, whatever you want. And you then have these agents have all of these IOUs, but then how do you know if the agent has successfully performed a task? Or how do you provide guardrails to an agent? There's no way to provide a guardrail to an agent if you give them an EOA. So this is where the MetaMask delegation toolkit with 4337 comes into play. You have this notion of what's called caveats, and Francesco talked about caveats and caveat enforcers. These are guardrails so that you can actually have the agent perform the task, give this IOU, and you can enforce to see and check if the agent did what it said. Now this, doing what the agent said it did, can be logged into a reputation contract. And this is where 8004 comes into play. So we have all the ingredients. I know that Griff and Owaki were talking about the DAO and liquid democracy, and you have this chain of delegations. And whenever the DAO hack happened, I don't know, what is it now, almost 10 years ago almost? These primitives didn't exist. We have AI agents now that can perform transactions at scale. And all of the ideas, the nascent ideas that we experimented with, and I really appreciate this kind of talking about failures from the previous fireside chat, because we can take those learnings and now we have the primitives to actually do it again with the learnings from before. So I imagine, and this is the hottest of hot takes, I think DAOs are coming back. And they're gonna come back in a huge way, but not how you think. I think agents are gonna help organizations be able to be more efficient. And really, agents, I believe, if you have this hybrid organization, will be able to keep what I'm calling the DAO culture intact. And so there's a whole new level of experiments. Ethereum was able to solve this hard trust problem. You had all of these metrics, TVL, token lock, transactions, and we thought that these metrics were going to give us what the health of a DAO was like. But we know that that's not true anymore. We know it's all about reputation, it's all about people coming together, and how much you can trust the organization and the people around it.
I wanna say, James, like we did a bunch of like live stream together, and I think like with Collab.Land, for me was the first example that you actually cared about the entire social coordination. And when we spoke about social coordination, how this is evolving is this economy of trust, but also like then we kind of analyze where are the instruments, right? And this was just before like the entire kind of like agent narrative like started, right? Even A004 was kind of like the main idea. It takes like 1+ year to get into market. Now it's kind of, it's not a combination, but I mean, being on mainnet since like less than 2 weeks, it's also like crazy, and it's coming like in a perfect timing. And how we build this economy of trust is obviously like do you have like reputation and you have standardization. I think X402 for payment is helping a lot. But also it's kind of like a chicken and egg problem, because we have 20,000 agents supporting A004, and you know the majority of agent developers today, they need to know that this standard exists in order to operate. So it's also like maybe a question for you, because you've been around for a long time around this social coordination, is that you know how we push basically agent developers or even agent itself for the discovery to leverage this this standard. And you know, what are kind of like, what are the scenarios here? Because we could have a scenario that is finishing up like an ELISA 300 forks of agent doing the same things without not knowing what are the performances. Or we can finish up the scenarios that the top services will automatically support X402. And in order for the agent to create commerce, to have commerce, you need to support those, similar to how Moldbooks now, I mean, don't quote me, I mean, in 6 days the API are down on Moldbooks, but Moldbooks force the agent to basically like support some of the standard in order to intervene and do post or engage post in Moldbooks, right? So I think that's kind of like the two scenario that we see.
Yeah, so to boil it down, with DAOs and communities, when they come together, it's all about trust. Now, you also, in the AI world, we're seeing, okay, AGI is gonna come. And all the doomers are saying, you know, Skynet and all. Why? Is because we don't know if we can trust this AI. So you have a group of people that wanna come together and figure out how to trust each other. You have the AI industry trying to figure out, with AI safety and all of that, how can you have an AI you can trust? So I think that it boils down fundamentally to a trust problem. And trust is so hard online, body language, all of this, things that you have IRL. And you know, trust is how businesses operate, trusting each other. So I think that we have this trustless substrate to now reconfigure trust on. And I think that is going to be this intersection between crypto communities and AI. I think that this is going to be the pivotal point. If we can figure out signals, whether it's reputation, identity, these are big rabbit hole concepts that we need a lot more experimentation on. I mean, in this last year, you've seen MCP, AP2, 8004, X402. You've seen all these like standards emerge. So we have the ingredients, and that all what I just said happened last year. And now we're in 2026, you have OpenClaw, you have all these things, and it's not slowing down. I think this is the slowest it's ever going to be. Yeah, it's just going to accelerate. But I think we have these issues, these hard or soft trust issues. Now that Ethereum has kind of solved what I'm calling infrastructure hard trust, there's these behavioral changes that you can't just look at on-chain. And I think because we have all these new on-chain metrics, it's very easy to look at them and say, how do we use these metrics, these market metrics? Not community building metrics, but market metrics. How do you map that on to community building? Maybe you don't. And so this is where I think AI comes into play. I have a lot of ideas. We're doing a lot at Collab.Land to experiment with this in a low stakes environment. We have 60,000 tokenized communities. We have millions of people using Collab.Land. And I think that the new form of tokenized communities is the new, we have a glimpse into what does it mean to have these new online organizations. Maybe it's not VC funded, because it's so easy for anyone, a group of people collectively to create apps now, like with vibe coding. Code is pretty much disposable nowadays. It's easier to just redo something if you've modularized and componentized the architecture to throw it away and just start again instead of having to refactor. So there's new paradigms, and I think that we should all take a step back, take a look at these new primitives that we have, and try to go back to first principles.
Yeah, I like what Sho, and we have 2 minutes, but I like what Sho said yesterday that, like when it's open source now, you can literally copycat like different features that you have in my product. But I think what it comes down is on the distribution side, right? I think like people will build a copycat product, and whoever distribute the better. But how distribution is connected with the end consumer need to have this kind of like reputation. If not, cannot do a specific like a decision making, and this will be the same with like agents. Agent discovery will also happen by reputation, and I think we have all these instruments. I think there are like still some specific things that we need to kind of like get out. But we have everything to kind of like build a strong economy. But one thing to say is that permissions is something that we need to solve as soon as possible, because if not, like right now is already the World Wide West with OpenClaw. Think about when actually like you start to have like, and there are already some, but OpenClaw frameworks for Web3 specific, right? You have like Austin speaking about like Wingman. I don't know if you test it out. It's very, very cool. But yeah.
Yeah, I think EOAs are kind of like in the, 50s and 60s of compute. You just had root access. In your laptop now, you have permissions. And the same thing is going to need to happen when it comes to agents. And so now we have all the ingredients. And I think that the kind of idea of build it and they will come is no longer true, because everyone is building right now, right? It's so easy to build. So I think distribution also, like you had mentioned, is going to be huge, because people are going to fight to keep their attention, because it's just going to be overwhelming. I mean, you see all the AI slop right now, and it's just going to get worse.
And we see also like more players, kind of like consolidation, right? Especially in DeFi, right? Like bigger player get bigger. Yeah, so it will be harder to kind of like compete. I saw like a question there. Do you have a question? Maybe shut it out. Like we have like 1 minute.
Really stoked about DAOs coming back for agents. Would love to collaborate. We're thinking about doing an agent-centric governance model for ETHBoulder and spinning up a server. Want to bring people into that. I'm curious what you think are the missing primitives or design constraints to be able to actually create agentic swarms. Whether that's like existing primitives, but configured in a particular way. Or where do you see like the need for innovation or creating new things that make those agent swarms possible?
I'm going to give a quick hot take on that, because I do have an answer. And I kind of alluded to this yesterday in my talk. You have an agent, your digital twin, that represents you. the agent plays a prediction market game with you. So what it does is it creates these scenarios and it gives an answer to what you would choose in this multiple choice quiz based on the scenario. And if the agent guesses correctly, your coherence score with the agent increases. If the agent guesses incorrectly, the coherence score goes down. And then there's this threshold where what is the percentage of correct answers that it gives so that you can then begin to trust your agents. I think that there'll be DAOs that are just agents, but they're steered by humans. So instead of a DAO looking at TVL, looking at all these different things, you look to see how coherent your agent is with you. And this is AI safety. It's the same thing. It all boils down to trust. Once you have coherence with your agent, the agents then try to have coherence with each other. Once the agents have the coherence with each other, they are managing the DAO together, and you have now DAOs that have coherence with each other. You have this network effect. But really, it boils down to alignment with you and your agent. I think there's a lot of experimentations there, and I think from what I've tried to research and study, we have all the primitives for that to happen. So now it's just experimenting with different scenarios that, that's just one example, but I think that there are many more to come.
Cool. I think time's up. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks so much for ETHBoulder for inviting us. And yeah, shout out for you guys to stay and check out this talk.
Thank you. Thanks, Francesco.